I recently went ahead and played about 50 hours of Warhammer Online, and I learned quite a bit. However, there were quite a few things that I really wish I knew before I started playing Warhammer Online. And these are the 5 most important things. Number 1 is that the PvP is the lifeblood of this game. Now, of course, with the game being Warhammer Online and being in the Warhammer Fantasy Battle universe, you can understand that war is kind of like its big thing. However, player versus player is one of the most key aspects to this game. Not only are you tracking a specific experience bar as you are leveling up called your career rank, you are also leveling up your renown rank when you engage in PvP. Renown is critical for your success here in Warhammer Online. As you get towards the later levels, you will be able to unlock better and better gear based off of your renowned rank. And a lot of the renown that you gain can just be simply done while you're leveling. Whether it be through the earlier tiers of Realm v Realm or the individual battleground PvP matches called scenarios or skirmishes, however you wish to call them, the idea is that these are essential to not only leveling your career rank, you can gain quite a bit of experience that way for getting up to the max level, which is 40. Tacking on everything that you get through the renown ranks as you are leveling greatly improves your experience overall. It allows you to build up a better understanding of what the game is like as you get progressed towards the end game, Realm versus Realm, tier 4. And it helps ease some of the grind as you get to max level so that you can afford the best gear in the game a little bit easier. The second thing that I learned very quickly, and there are times that I kind of still messed up on it, was grouping up when you can. Grouping up in this game is so incredibly important, especially if you are questing out in the earlier levels or even into the late game levels. Now, during my recent playthrough, I went ahead and played as a Blackguard, which was a lot of fun. However, the Blackguard is a tank with a glaive option for its melee DPS. And being out in the open world, I found myself lacking in the damage capability. I couldn't kill mobs faster than they would essentially be able to respawn. And then when I actually grouped up with a few allies, it ended up speeding up the process so significantly fast. Oh my goodness, it made such a world of difference. And not only that, it ends up helping out with experience grinding too, because you're able to push through and kill a bunch of mobs and move pretty quick. This is also very similar to what you would see with their open world group quests, which are also called public quests, where you can get 3 to 10 different players all helping at the same time to finish up a public quest, which is highly recommended that you group up. These give a ton of experience as well as influence for that particular chapter, which you can use to purchase gear and other cool items that you could use along your journey. Honestly, just group up, reach out, ask if anyone's there. You'll find that most of the time, if there is someone available, they'll help out and join it. The third thing I wish I knew earlier was how important the weekend scenarios are. The weekend scenarios, or the weekend skirmishes, however you wish to call them, are specific PvP matches that are oriented around increasing the amount of experience and renown that you get during that weekend. So say, for example, the Norden Watch skirmish weekend. Every match that I had there gave me 50% more experience and 50% more renown. Now, this helps out in a number of regards. It ends up speeding up the process as far as leveling is concerned, which definitely helps out during the later half of the leveling, basically anywhere between 20 to 40. But the extra renown that you gain really catapults you further down the line. I think in the last scenario skirmish that I was a part of, I ended up getting probably about 3 or 4 different renown levels in about a day. Like, it was really, really fast. But the idea is that these are so heavily sought after because of the amount of experience and renown boost that you get. Not to mention that you can get the Potion of Acclaim. When you pop this potion, for the next 72 hours, all of your renown gains are increased by 25%. This helps out in tier 4 Realm v Realm. This helps out in scenarios. Basically, anywhere that you're gaining renown, this is going to increase it. Now, be warned that it is a 72-hour timer, meaning that it will just start ticking away, even if you're not playing the game, so keep that in mind. I found some success actually saving it towards the latter half of the week, and then when the next scenario would pop up, I would be able to just, bam, right there, use it during that time period, get the new one for the next week, and move on. Highly, highly recommend trying to log in and putting some time in during the weekends. It will greatly help out your playthrough. The fourth thing that I really wish I learned earlier, or I should have paid attention earlier, was the ability to swap traits as well as your specializations. Now, each class has 3 specializations that are tied to it, and they can change how the overall direction and how you play in the game. So take, for example, my Blackguard. They had 3 different paths that I could choose. Basically, the melee 2-handed glaive damage dealer. It could be oriented around being tanks, or I could be oriented around shutting down magic users. Now, the idea of this, and what I didn't learn until later, was that you can move these templates back and forth and swap them very quickly. So say, for example, you want to be a tank in some scenarios and offer up some extra defenses. Okay, bam, there you go. You can pop that off. If you want to be a DPSer in Realm v Realm, you can just simply click and switch, and then there you go. It is very intuitive, very, very easy. Now, granted, if you're changing your specializations, I do believe you have to go and visit a career trainer, but they are in most of the major war camps, if I'm not mistaken. So that makes it easier when you have to swap. The other aspect of changing your traits, the traits are so important to have a bunch of different ones, because you get so many different traits that can affect your playstyle, and having the ability to be able to switch them back and forth out of combat really quickly, just at a click of a button, ended up helping out so much that I actually was kicking myself because I was muscling through as a tank when I was using a 2-handed weapon. Use the trait swaps, use the skill swaps, it helps out massively. And number 5 is always check the vendors. One of the problems that I ran into, especially once I got between like the levels of like 16 to 30, was that I always felt like I was behind. Even though I was the appropriate level, my weapons, my damage, everything felt weaker. Now, I did eventually find out that the vendor gear is actually pretty damn good. They offer quite a bit of benefit just for simply, really, just purchasing it for a couple pieces of gold. Now, when you reach endgame, you do have the capability of just purchasing some vendor gear, and it's like 1 gold, and it's basically tuned for level 40, and it's very, very easy to get in the Inevitable City for the Forces of Destruction, or if you are on the Order side of things, I believe it's in Alt Dwarf. But the idea is that the vendor gear is actually pretty damn good, and you should pay attention to it as you were going through, because there's many times where I just went ahead and purchased the gear and it dramatically saw an improvement in how much damage I was doing, how survivable I was, and it just made the overall playthrough a heck of a lot easier. I'd actually even toss this in as a bonus tip, although it's kind of intuitive, but really take some time and understand what your class is specifically good at. Each one of the classes under each one of the different races basically falls into the umbrella of either tank, healer, ranged DPS, or melee DPS. Each one of them has a specific skill set that is different from one another, so play to those particular strengths. So say, for example, I play as the Blackguard. Well, the Blackguard is very good against casters for whatever reason. It has a bunch of different abilities that can really make it easy work against a caster. Whereas like a Blackwork may be better suited against melee combatants, which would make sense. So just pay attention to what the extra effects of your class would be. It'll make your playthrough a lot better, in my opinion. But yeah, that was definitely another thing that took me a while to understand. And that essentially is the most important things that I wish I knew before playing Warhammer Online. Now, I'm sure that there's a bunch of other things that I still haven't uncovered in this game, and this is probably one that I'll end up revisiting at some point, maybe playing through as a Shadow Warrior, going for the High Elves or something. But if you are watching this and you're still on the fence about playing Warhammer Online, I'd highly recommend you checking out this video here. This is kind of like my synopsis of pros and cons of what Warhammer Online is like in 2025, and if it's worth your time. Otherwise, stay caffeinated, folks.